Okay. All right, well, thank you, Diane, for inviting me, and thank you for everybody being here. The first poem is about my grandmother, and when I was 5 years old, I discovered her in the backyard making soap, lye soap, and this was Savannah, Georgia in 1950, and so I wrote a poem about it. The title of the poem is The Slave Owner's Daughter Makes Soap, and I call her the slave owner's daughter because her father made a fortune on his farm in Tennessee using enslaved labor. He was a slave owner, and so she is the slave owner's daughter. And the mindset of the Confederate slave owner wasn't abolished by the 13th Amendment or the Emancipation Proclamation. The poison got passed down the generations, and that is also what the poem is about. But I'm 5 years old at the point. So the slave owner's daughter makes soap, Savannah, 1950. I see with 5-year-old eyes a wood fire under a cauldron, a box of lye powder, cans of bacon fat. Daddy's, granny's slaves used to do this work, but they got freed before my granny got born. She, the 7th white daughter of a white gentleman, bitter how he got robbed of his property. Granny jabs the broomstick with 2 hands. Her loose hair sprays as she works the mash, grips the sandy dirt bare-toed, strains out her neck, and forces the soap hard. Then she cuts the remnant scum into bite-sized squares. I say, "Are those squares candy?" My mother explodes like blood from a whipping. "Don't touch that stuff. It'll rot your fingers off, eat your tongue gone, burn your eyes to black pools of pus." Granny chuckles. Little boy, other side of Savannah, ate some lye soap once. Burned his throat right out. Had to go around with blue strings tied out his nose. Granny loves her terrible stories. That little paper boy crashed his bicycle, got his head wedged in a culvert, died as they strained to pry him free. Your Uncle Jake exploded his gasoline cigar lighter. His head went off in a ball of fire. Never had lips at all after that. Gossip lady next door dusted her new Edison lamp, got electrocuted. Burned herself into a pile of ashes that deep. Mommy sulks while Granny stores the soap in a rough pine crate, like the kind oranges come in. She picks up and puts down the nasty little soap squares bare-handed. Slave work, but she's used to it now. They burn when you touch them, but she's done it so often, she doesn't even care. 10 years later, I was in high school at Valdosta High School, and this was 1960. Our custodian, our black custodian's name was Ulysses. We called him Uli, and the title of this poem is Ulysses the Thinker. Uli is just a black janitor who swept the halls of Valdosta High School since before forever. Takes his time, observes his white work situation with slow eyes, allows the days to pass, likes his indoor job where the Klan, the Cyclops, the sheriff won't grin and question. The yearbook photographer Robert poses Uli as Rodin's The Thinker, sitting hand on chin, elbow on knee. Robert giggling. Ulysses poses, doesn't object, holding still, maintains a tense forbearance, thinks about the little rented house he and his wife and children might be turned out of if he objects. Thinks how he gives his wife money for food and doesn't tell her anything. Thinks of how his children run to greet him when he gets off the bus and hug him and call him sir because he's taught them something of respect. Thinks when he's cleaning up after the white people's children, he can't afford to object to anything. Yet he thinks, too, of one day when he might choose to string his bow. Two years later, I was still at Valdosta High School. I witnessed an event, and I wrote a poem about it. The title is, "Facilities Not Marked Colored Are White Only." Anybody knows black skin bleeds red on white concrete. The little paper boy risked his life by risking a pee. The men's room sign omitted any qualifying adjective. The boy went in, but white men used that room. One unleashed himself upon the boy. White only gave the man his license. White solidarity, his immunity. But what white childhood his eagerness? My mother pleaded the separate but equal apology with passionate abstractions. Never knew, never wanted to know about the boy. I've been living here for 40 years, but I still stay in touch with Georgia, and I noticed a headline in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution a couple of years ago. The headline is, "Georgia Governor Says Prison Parolees Can Replace Migrant Farm Workers." So the poem's title is, "Lucky to Have a Job." Sky's pale orange and Farmer Wilson's here to pick us over. He wipe his nose, he tall as a sunflower stalk, face pale as a fresh-sawed pine plank. We stand patient country mules waiting, stirring up red clay dust with our shuffling, hoping he'll give us a try. "It's not the chain gang," I told Mama when she served me her nightmares with my 5 a.m. coffee. "I'm a genuine, free parolee. I'll bend and pick and sweat to stay that way." Mr. Wilson squints. "Squash gone to rot up over there. There's zucchini on the other side, too ripe, too limp." He says, "Could have really used a crew a couple of weeks ago. We hope he's not holding that against us." Mr. Wilson points. "I got 13 acres of peas down that way." He spits. He starts the selection. Got a friend in line, a boy like me from Moultrie. He's strong like me. Farmer's gonna take him and me. We laugh at the skinny boys. They pitiful. They dead squash. Last poem. My older brother and I went to Savannah in 2008, but we'd been away for a couple of decades and we hadn't realized Savannah had gotten gentrified. So this poem captures some of that. It's called Bistro, Savannah. I order the grits and shrimp and get a prank on my plate. It has to be. A tiny mound of yellow grits with 4 minuscule shrimp arranged in a wheel and 3 bold diagonals of asparagus, I suppose to impress me with their color and drama. I not immune to the charms of culinary flair, but what kind of Savannah meal is this? Start with magnitude 40 makes more sense than 4. Don't peel them. And it being only civil to let a creature see its fate, leaves the heads on too. The shrimp should be served in a bucket, ready to fight back when nabbed. And we need a hole in the middle of the table to receive the inedible portions of the corpses. Those grits should start out white, in a bowl of sufficient capacity, at least a quart. Butter on the side, cheese appreciated. Who ordered this Chardonnay wine? How about some old-fashioned sweet iced tea, reinforced discreetly with bourbon, kissed with mint, cradled in crushed ice, like mother's basic summer evening libation. No guest should rise from a southern table fit for anything but staggering off to slumber, leaving hungry, offended. I have to uncover the roots of this gastronomic mendacity. I arrange a discreet moment with one of the wait staff. I knew it. The owner's from Ohio.
Alexander Morgan.